So this is everything that came with the Prelude. Now I plan on putting on most of this, right? The only thing I don't really plan on putting on right now is this thermal intake gasket. There are better flowing intakes than what I think is on this car. So I would like to wait until I get a better intake to put this on. But I do plan on putting everything else on. The cam gears, I would like to wait, but I think I'm gonna go ahead and do it now and I'll just change them out later. And I'll just do it one at a time. I want to change this hardware out, and I want to change the hold down bolts out to something that looks a little better, since they're going to be exposed with the cut timing cover. And if memory serves me right, the valve cover is already cut. Yep. So the valve cover is already cut. It's where you can adjust the cam gears. So those will look really good poking out right there. First things up on the menu, we're going to do fuel and air. We're going to do the fuel rail, fuel pump, injectors, and the throttle body. So let's get to taking off this throttle body. All right, there we go. Now we got the tiny throttle body out. So let's do a quick size comparison here. You can see, obviously, there's a huge difference in the size of these. I mean, you can take this one and literally, leaking coolant everywhere, stick it inside of that one, right? Huge difference. The silicone coupler for that intake is not going on this throttle body. So got about 2 3/8, and this one here is about 2 3/4. Now I gotta get this sucker off of here, and when we put it on here, we're gonna have to set it. Okay, so this afternoon we're gonna get back started working on the Prelude. I gotta take the whole intake out of this thing, and that's just gonna make things a lot easier, because I gotta port the intake, I gotta change the injectors anyway, so it'd be easier to do all that while it's out. But after I got the throttle body off and I started realizing some things, I started comparing the new one to the old one. I ended up leading me down a rabbit hole for a few days doing some research. And let me share with y'all what I came up with. So this car is a 94. It's OBD1. Was it 96 and up, or 90, or OBD2? Anything before 95 and older is OBD1. So with that little bit out the way, if you look back here, this is my map sensor right here. It's mounted on the firewall. It's got vacuum hoses, all kinds of stuff going everywhere. So if we come over here to the table and we look at the Skunk 2 throttle body and the stock throttle body, you can see right here, this one has a vacuum port that goes to that map sensor. This one takes a map sensor mounted to it. So that's my dilemma I'm at right now. Ultimately, this is what I came up with through all the digging I did on forums, because it doesn't seem like there's any one thread on the forums that has all the information for some reason. You can use the throttle body on this car perfectly fine. I just need to either buy Skunk 2's map sensor, which is like a 4 or 5 bar map sensor, I think, which would be good for boost, or find me a GM 3-bar map sensor, or buy another Honda map sensor off of like an Integra or the 5th gen Prelude or something like that. Because from my understanding, all the plugs on the ends of the map sensors are the same. It's just this car, being OBD1, had it on the firewall for some reason. But somebody was suggested on the forums to get a 94 GSR Integras. That one is not mounted on the firewall, it's mounted on the throttle body. So anyways, a lot of information. Sorry if I've been rambling. We're gonna get back to working on this thing. The first thing I'm gonna do is I'm gonna take the strut tower bar off real quick. And then we can assess where we gotta go from there on removing injectors and all that fine dandy stuff. Because we'll be able to see everything once we get this strut tower bar out. So it really doesn't look like a good way of getting to the bolts on the lower side of the intake. So I'm gonna jack the car up. Hopefully I don't get attacked by spiders from the bottom side while I'm under there. Because this car did sit out in my yard for a while, and it's sitting, the guy got it from the yard for several years. And I know there was a bunch of spiders under it because I kept having to kill them and spraying bug killer all on the fender wells and everything. But let me get the floor jack, get this thing in the air, and we'll crawl up under there. Hopefully not get attacked by spiders. So I'm calling it for the night. When I crawled under the car, I saw a big spider web area. Looked like a nest that I really wasn't gonna mess with. And I happened to peek up inside the transmission around the flywheel with my flashlight, and there was an extremely large black widow that I really don't feel like playing around with. So I broke out my sprayer with Killabug in it, and I mixed it heavy. You can see how white the stuff is that's on the ground from the Killabug mix. And I sprayed it literally everywhere. Fender wells, under the intake, over the intake, in the transmission where I saw that big black widow. Like, I don't think there's a spot on here I didn't spray it. Maybe right here. And because I ain't messing right here. And I can kind of see down in here. I don't really see. Oh, there's a big ass black widow right there. Damn. Never mind. I missed the spot. Remember I said there was a big one in here? That's probably the biggest black widow I've ever seen. And that's saying something, because where I grew up at, had them everywhere. And I have soaked his ass in the freaking stuff. And he is suffering right now. But my God, this is why I was like, I'm not getting under here. I'm spraying this stuff everywhere. I'm gonna spray him some more. What's up, everybody? So it's been a few weeks since we had the little scare with the black widow in the car, and I soaked this car 2 days straight with Killabug, and now it's all good and dried out. I feel really comfortable working on it, not having to worry about a black widow or a brown recluse getting me while I'm under there. So I'm gonna work on getting those bottom side intake bolts out, and we'll get this thing on the workbench, and I'll get back with y'all whenever I have it out. All right, I'm gonna separate this upper piece. Anybody that don't know, you're looking at these right here and you're wondering what the hell that is. These are vacuum secondaries. Alright. I got the lower half off. You basically see the tops of all these ports right where the injector goes in don't line up, so we're gonna trim that out. But everything else matches up pretty good. Trim that out a little bit. I'll mark it better with a Sharpie. I need to find a couple of bolts and nuts. I think this will work a little better. There's a little bit of the port in a couple of spots. It's funny, actually the gasket's a little bit bigger. Like I could trim a little bit of the gasket off almost. It's amazing how much plastic I had to take off of this gasket to make everything line up. So now I gotta go back and grind that out, and a little bit that's overhanging, and then we can start polishing down on the inside, get rid of all the casting marks. Been working on this intake manifold off camera, on and off for a few weeks in between working on other things. Since the RSX decided it wanted to drink its coolant or mix its coolant and its oil, I'm going to start working on making the Prelude streetable, because it'd be cheaper actually in the end, just to make it my daily driver. So I've been working on this off camera, porting and polishing this lower intake. I got down here the best I could. I know it looks kind of like funky on camera down there, but it's actually relatively smooth. And then I've got not much more to take off these runners, and I got the new intake manifold gasket kit sitting over there. I still have to port out this for the 70mm throttle body, and port this side and polish the inside of this out the best I can. And the last thing I'm gonna do is the secondaries right here. And I know a lot of people are like, well, just gut it and don't put them back in there. You know, you don't need that. The fact that this thing's gonna be a daily driver, I want to keep that mid-range torque that you would lose if you delete this. So, and there's plenty of write-ups on what happens if you delete this. So I want to keep the secondaries as they are, and just do a port match on it. So that'd be the last thing I do. And I do have the new map sensor coming for the throttle body, because you got to have the one that mounts on the throttle body. So that's all coming in. I also ordered a new valve cover gasket, because I think that's leaking on the back side. Yeah, I think it's the valve cover that's leaking. It looks like that back corner. So I ordered a new valve cover gasket for that. And I gotta get back here and clean the intake manifold gasket off. Actually, it looks like it's leaking all along the back here, all the way around. So, I just have the fuel pressure regulator coming, and a fuel pressure gauge coming for the bigger fuel rail. I think I got this upper half as good as it's going to get. If you look right here, I got this opened up pretty good. It's very thin on this one side, and the gasket doesn't look like it even rides on that. Like, it looks like it's gonna miss the metal of that opening. It looks like it does miss it. Let me rephrase that. See, I could push it in right there. It doesn't even touch right there. So I'm probably gonna have to get this kind of built up on the edge a little bit with something. And yeah, but if you can look down in there, there's some spots that are they're kind of hard to get to, and I don't really feel like putting the time and trying to get those hard to get spots right now. So I'm gonna call this good because I got it pretty much taken care of. There's one spot back here I could probably get, but I feel like the main thing that was to have these runners, these main runners in this lower portion, polished and like pretty much perfect, right? This upper part, I mean, it's probably just as important to have it that smooth, but it's kind of hard to get that. I feel like it's hard to get that factory casting of that upper portion smooth like that. Got the intake back. Got this welded up now, so we got some material here. And I kind of broke the gasket when I was testing it, but I think it'll be okay. As you can see, we could put a little something on that to help that seal. But as you see, now we're gonna have some material for the gasket to ride on. So that's the main goal of this. And now I just have to clean this up good. We'll probably take a hone and kind of hit it with a little bit of hone real quick to make sure when I get it down close, make sure it's all good and flat. And I think I'm gonna take the flapping wheel and come back up in here and kind of smooth this out just a little bit more on the inside. And that'll be good. I really wanted to try and brighten this intake up or clean it up, make it look a little better. But at the end of the day, it's just a stock intake. So I think I'm gonna leave it like it is and just stick it back on because now it's not covered in oil and grease and just all the other crud that was all over it. I debated on trying to get some like aluminum brightener to spray it down with and let it soak and kind of eat all like the residue and discoloration from the raw aluminum. But then I thought about painting it. I don't really have any high temp silver to paint this thing with. I know the intake shouldn't get hot, but I'd rather paint with something high temp for being in that inside the engine compartment. But I think I'm just gonna leave it like it is, and we're just gonna send it. So I'm gonna get this off, get this to the side so I don't fill it full of metal shavings again, get this off, clean this piece up, and we'll start putting this thing back together. Well, there we have it. Just one note, the fuel rail is just sitting on here for looks, and so is the aisle air control valve, because you can't put this on with this on because the plug hits the body, and when this bolt is tight right here, it hits the ear for this. So yeah, needless to say, this is how it all looked when it's all sitting in the car. Nice, clean, new looking. But I left all that loose because I got to take it back off to take this back off. And I want to change all the O-rings on the injectors because it came with new O-rings. Got the new 5th gen Prelude, which is 9701 map sensor mounted on the throttle body. The firewall mounted map sensor on this OBD1 car will go away. As you saw, I was doing a little time lapse of me hooking up all the vacuum lines and everything on the throttle body and the intake manifold. Well, something didn't seem right as I was hooking everything up, and I decided to go do a little digging. On the factory throttle body, there's another port right here, and this throttle body doesn't have that extra vacuum port. And that extra vacuum port was for the charcoal canister line that comes up right here on the back side and goes into this rusty ass line and goes down to the purge solenoid down here. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna delete all of it. No more charcoal canister. Oh, that works. Charcoal canister is out. And as soon as I unplug it, evap, solenoid, and vacuum hoses are all out the way. Junk. Now don't that look so much better back here? All that junk out the way. I know, like I said, you really won't see the hole down here that we just made, but that firewall looks a lot cleaner. I know I'm gonna have an extra plug floating around back here, but we'll just kind of tape him up. But I do have to extend, unless I can figure out a way how to get a little extra slack out of this wire. I gotta be able to plug it in here. Unless I might be able to flip this around actually. Let me try that. Oh, look at that. Bada bing, bada boom. It lines up, but it don't plug in. That's just... Oh, it helps if I plug in the correct plug. You jackass! Which I still might have to extend it, unless I can get some... But, there is a little difference here. The inside of this plug, see where these two plastic pieces are on the inside? If you look at the factory one, they're much beefier. I think I have a fix for this, but it's probably not gonna be anything anybody likes, but I think it'll work. I think I forgot to do something. Yep. I need to be tighten it. There we go. Now it might go on. There. I broke out my big box of wires the other day, and I went ahead and dug out some wires that were a similar color, so we go ahead and have a slight jump start on doing this. What I dug out was I got this blue with white stripe to match this wire. We only need probably a couple inches. And I dug out this red and white one. I know it ain't the exact same, but this to go with that. Snip a little bit off the end because I don't like the way the end looks. And try to get them close to the same length. And then I dug out a white with blue stripe on to match this white with blue stripe.
the blue and white, the blue stripe. Go ahead and, should probably just go ahead and slip my heat shrink onto all of them. But I'm doing it as I do them. It's always wise. It's like doing a flaring brake lines. Don't want to forget to put the nut on before you flare the line, because you might make this beautiful piece, but if you don't have that nut on there, you ain't using it. You have to cut it and redo it. Voila, now it reaches without being stretched a mile. Let me get some electrical tape. I'm gonna tape this up.
Now that we got that taken care of, I know there's ports and stuff open for the vacuum lines. I'm about to make a run to the auto parts store. I want to get some actual caps for capping off vacuum ports. And I know I got some coolant lines I got to hook up, but I think we're ready to put injectors in. Changing the O-rings and putting all the fittings in the fuel rail. So the only thing I didn't do on camera was I put this plug in, but I got the gist of setting all that up. And the final piece to this finally came in the other day. I got an AM fuel pressure regulator. I've been having this, but I'm waiting on the regulator to come in, and that is a hybrid racing pressure gauge that we're gonna put on the fuel rail. I sat here and fiddled with this the other day, and I was trying to figure out how I wanted to do this. Well, I think what I came up with is going to be the best solution. So your fuel pressure regulator mounts right here, and this is pretty much how it's going to sit in the car, right? It's how you're going to see it. Vacuum port up, the screws facing forward, and you're going to have the fitting on the back, right? So with it like that, and like I said, this is exactly how it's going to sit in the car. So you walk up to the car with the hood open, and this is what you see. So I could screw it in right here. Problem is, I don't know if when you go to, even with this screw tight, if you screw this in and have it tight, but it would clear the pressure regulator, right? But the thing I have against that is, you have to look over to see the pressure. So my thing is, we take one of these caps out, drill and tap it for, pretty sure that's 1/4 20, and we mount the gauge either here or down here. I don't know. Well, I'm gonna drill and tap one of them because I only need one of them drilled and tapped anyways. We're gonna drill and tap them and figure that out in a second. So I tried ordering one fuel pressure regulator, and they kept saying that one was on back order, and they didn't know when it was gonna get to me. So I ordered this one, right? So when you line up the holes, it doesn't matter which way this regulator is on here. When you line up the holes, the hole for the freaking return to go into the or for the pressure to go into the regulator doesn't line up. Like, yeah, it overhangs. So I'm gonna have to send this one back.
Don't forget to put your seals back in the injector ports. We got new ones. These are not the old ones, don't worry. Perfect. Now I just gotta put. Where did they go? I just gotta bolt it down, and it'll be good. Just gotta find the nuts I took off for it.
So the next big ticket item thing that we're about to mark on the list that we are going to do, we're going to change the injector plugs out. I did some research last night on digging around trying to find a wiring schematic for these injectors. And from what I can tell is all the wires that are like these red and blacks, reds with the black stripes, all communicate back to the injector resistor box over here. And the other wire that comes out of each injector goes back to the ECU. So subsequently you got a yellow, a blue, another red, and there's the fourth one, a brown. So what I am going to do is, I already took a quick look at it. If you plug in one of the injectors, like so, I get this thing to sit on there. There we go. So your red is on my left, and the black is on my right. And if you take one of the old injectors and pair it up with how it plugged in, the red and black wires go to the left, and the other wire goes to the right. So that's what I'm about to do. I'm about to cut the sheathing open for each injector. I'm gonna clip back a little bit. I don't want to cut the entire pigtail off at the base, so I'm gonna try and leave some of it because I got plenty of wire here to make these long enough. So I'm gonna clip about back here about this much. Then I'm gonna proceed to do the same thing to these that I did to the map sensor with the solder crimps and heat shrink. I got the door cracked open, letting them inside while I'm in here working because it's cold as hell outside right now. I got a heater over here. My wife's been sitting here reading her Kindle, and I got a heater right here on me.
just to kind of keep the chill out of here. But he wants to come over here and meow at me like I did something wrong. What's wrong with that damn cat? And I ran out of that size wire. I ran out of that size heat shrink, so I had to go up one for this one, which I think will be just fine. Might not close up all the way. It might. Well, my tape job got progressively better. I don't know why this one is longer than the rest of them, but they're all done now. Just got to retape up this right here where I cut all of this. Make it look a little better. That looks a lot better. No wires are exposed. I want to take one of these caps, and I want to take it off and drill and tap it to fit this fuel pressure gauge. Now, I could, actually I couldn't, because it's gonna hit this vacuum right here, port right here for the secondaries. But if that wasn't in the way, I could screw it in right there. That's kind of hard to see. Right next to where the fuel pressure regulator is gonna go, but you would never be able to see the reading very well. So I'm thinking either right here or right here. Haven't decided, but I don't need to drill and tap one of them, so let me get one of these off. This way. That's a little more center. All right. Pretty hot, pretty centered. Yeah. Anyways, hot potato. That is very hot. Like it got hotter by the second. So I went over my toolbox and I got a pipe tap right here. It's 1/8 inch, 27. Maybe y'all can see that. And I don't know if y'all can make that out on the camera or not, but the threads line up and the diameter lines up. So just need to see what size I need to drill it out to. And I got right here 1/8 inch, 27, should be a Q bit or 21/64. I couldn't find a Q. I was having trouble finding the 21/64. So I started looking at what the decimal size it says for Q is. I came over here to this tap drill chart and I started looking at what size 21/64 is. 3281. The Q is 3320. So ultimately what I did was I had to break out a pair of calipers and start measuring the drill bits. That one's about 310, 312, depending on where I catch it at. So I think this is going to be our drill bit for the 1/8 inch tap. So if you look, it's actually just smaller than the tap too. I'm pretty sure this is the bit, so I'm gonna go with it. Now I'm back in business. Had to hit on my angle grinder since I don't have a pedestal grinder. Still ain't cutting. All right, it still wasn't cutting, so I hit it again, and I flattened it out because this is aluminum, and if I remember right, with aluminum, you don't want a real steep radius across that lip on that drill bit. You want it to kind of be like that, more or less. Try it out. All right, so it's been a while since I sharpened a freaking drill bit, I guess. But I think what my problem was, this back edge was actually taller than my biting edge. So I think I wasn't even hitting this cutting lip. So I got it drilled and tapped. My phone for some reason stopped recording while I was tapping the hole out. So usually whenever you're tapping pipe threads, you generally want to leave like 5 or 7 threads left, but this isn't flat across here. It's got that concave to it. So I stopped, let me thread it in real quick and show y'all. I stopped about right there, which looks to be about 5 threads from the top. So it actually works out pretty much perfectly that I kind of just guessed where to stop at. And it threads onto the gauge just fine. And it's going to tighten up just fine when we get some tape on there. So what I'm going to do now is we're going to go put this in the car and take a look at where to place it. So after a little consultation, it was decided upon to use the port over here. And actually it's going to work out better because you can see it and you can adjust the regulator at the same time, because the regulator mounts right here on the end. But come over here, y'all can see everything. I got the wiring harness tucked. You can't even see it's under the rail. It actually worked out perfect when I tightened the gauge up, that it fell out pretty square and where you can read everything perfect. Like it wasn't turned one way or the other. Been out here piddling, trying to hook up random things. I got all the coolant lines hooked up. Had to run a new line for this one right here from over here, and actually I reused that line for this PCV valve line, so that way, because the stock line would have went straight across the gauge, and felt like it just needed to go around the gauge, so it actually worked out really well. Reusing this hose for this. I gotta get some clamps for different things. I need to move the clamp still for this. I did discover this port back here on the back of this intake was blocked off. A little piece of hose was screwing in. And I couldn't remember where the vacuum line for this secondary valve right here was. Well, I don't think it ever had it. Looking back at pictures and the videos of stuff, me just taking it apart, I don't think it was ever hooked up. So I don't think the secondaries were ever functioning. And I crawled under the car looking for the little black box and the solenoid that controls it, and it's not there. So it's just hooked straight to the intake. So the secondaries are going to be open all the time, which most people will remove them. And at this point, it would have just, if I would have known none of the stuff was in there, I probably would have just removed it. But this will be fine for now. I did hook up the new battery. I was trying to set the throttle position sensor, which I'm going to show y'all in just a second. Ended up just unplugging my fuel pump altogether, so that way I wouldn't put fuel to the front while I'm doing all this. And let's see what else. That might be all I've done. Just been piddling, trying to knock out the little odd end things and figure some things out. I still got to go get caps to block off all these different ports everywhere, so I gotta go out to town in a little bit. I'm gonna go get all that. Let me show y'all how to set this throttle position sensor. So I'm gonna set up this meter. Ignore the fact that it's kind of swinging erratically. It works. It reads very well, actually. My nice fluke meter, for some reason I couldn't get it to give me a reading on the throttle position sensor voltage. And I have an alligator clip holding my ground side of my meter to the ground on the starter. So there's a red wire right here. I'm gonna stick the meter in here. And when I open the throttle, so it says 4.8. We'll roll it down a little bit. 4.6. We're gonna come down a little bit more because it's what I was reading online. It should be 4.5. A little bit more. There we go, 4.5. So I'm gonna lock it down right there with my Allen wrench. It's on top of the valve cover. So 4.56, and as I close the throttle body, the number should smoothly represent me closing it smoothly. Yeah, and then it goes back to reading erratic, but you get the gist of it. I'd still trust this meter. It's old. It may read erratic, but it still works. Let that bleed off. Yeah, it's supposed to be like that. So we can wiggle this out. Alright, took it outside, cleaned it, got it looking a little better. Found that the gasket's been not installed correctly for the where it sits against the tank. So I'm gonna have to change that out while I got it out. So I'm gonna go ahead and take that off. So I'm gonna have to leave this off until I get the new gasket. I'll probably stop, see if O'Reilly's or somebody has one, stop on the way home and get one. But yeah, that ain't gonna work. According to the instructions, you're supposed to have a foam sleeve that goes around the pump. I don't have the foam sleeve, so did some digging on some old forum posts. Other people said that they done that hurt. That they said they done. Other people said they had these kits not come with the foam piece. So I'm just gonna not worry about it, and we're gonna continue on because I think I'll go ahead and cut this wire off. I really don't get how they expected you to even the foam to do anything, because this thing's held in here pretty good. Just being like from the hose and that bushing down there. I'll cut off about right there. And I need to let me find an eyelet real quick. just to be safe, put that. Does it fit? Make sure it doesn't back out. Now we get there. Good and tight. There we go. That's ready to go in. For the meantime, I'm just gonna leave this sitting here on the table. I'll wrap this sock back in its bag that it was in. And I'm going to, there was a zip tie, where's the zip tie go? I'm gonna put the zip tie on it just for extra security since it came with it, to make sure it doesn't fall out the bracket. I don't think it will, but they recommend, and the zip tie is too short actually. How about that? So, like I said, I'm gonna put the zip tie around it because they recommend it, just to hold it in the bracket. And like I said, the instructions said something about a foam sleeve. I don't have it, so if I see it becomes a problem later, I'll change it and put it on there. But I don't really see where it could be a problem not having it, and just purely off of looking at everything. Like, when I was looking at online, there's some guys were talking about a 3/8 and a 1/4 inch one. They had 2 of them in their kit. Some people said they had none in their kit, and you know, that wasn't the first time they'd heard of not getting one with the fuel pump kit. So I don't know if it's just based on application use, maybe. I don't know, but I don't have it, and I really don't see where, like, that's a 1/2 inch gap. I really don't see where that's going to make that much of a difference. So I'm not that worried about it. I'm gonna leave this here. And the final thing that's gonna make all this work, we gotta put this chipped ECU in. So we're gonna go do that. Let me make a correction. I know I said this was the final thing to make it run, but I still need that adjustable fuel pressure regulator because I don't think the stock one's gonna work with all this new stuff. So oh, there's something in there. Nice new chipped ECU is gonna go in. So I didn't realize the foot pattern on this ECU was gonna be that much different. So what I started doing, I took the other one apart. And we're gonna actually, I don't know if I can. Looking at this one's got this bracket right here. This one's got the brackets on the side. I plugged this ECU back in and it's just sitting there for now. I gotta figure out how I'm gonna retain it. I'm thinking I'm gonna just do a couple of zip ties, pull it in tight to that ECU bracket for the time being. I still got the old one. I can make a bracket that bolts to the factory plate and then make something to go to this that's got this foot pattern of this ECU. So I don't know, I'll have to revisit this another day, but for now I'm gonna leave it here until I get some long enough zip ties to do what I need to do. All right, it's been a few days. The new fuel pressure regulator came in. I have it right here with all the hardware. As you can see on the back side right here, the port is in line with the bolt holes, which is what we needed for it to work with my fuel rail I have. The other regulator, if you go back and look, this hole was slightly offset of the bolt holes, which didn't allow it to line up, and it would just leaked everywhere. It wouldn't have done anything at all. So I'm gonna go ahead and get this installed. Also, you know, I've got the fuel pump ready to install. I was gonna wait for this gasket to come in, but it's gonna be a few more days and we have a pretty good winter storm coming. They're saying we're supposed to have, like, I don't know, 3 to 6 inches of snow or something like that,
which is like extremely unheard of down here in South Louisiana. So I'm gonna go ahead and I'm gonna throw the fuel pump back, the fuel pressure regulator on. I'm gonna put the fuel pump back in with the old gasket for the time being, and when the new one shows up, we will put that, change that gasket out. I pulled the fuel and temp gauge assembly out and sent that off to be repaired, so that way I don't have to worry about that board burning up, because it was going in and out and they're known for failing. So that's a matter of the board needs to be resoldered and probably some diodes changed and stuff. Also, I got something else, but we're gonna get to that in another part of the video that came in, but for now we're gonna work on this. That should tight enough. There we go. All right. Now I'm gonna hook up the return line. I gotta hook the PCV valve back up, moved out the way so I can install this. And I need to hook up a vacuum line. Let's see here. And then we can run this hose from there. To there. And I'm gonna hook the PCV valve back up. Oh, there we go. We got that done. I'm gonna put the fuel pump back in. It's almost there. There we go. Alright, I got it idling, and the fuel pressure is a little low, so I'm gonna adjust it while it's running. I'm tweaking some things, I'm letting it idle, putting some coolant in because I lost some coolant when I took the intake off. I did have to loosen up on my throttle cable to give the plenum a little bit to relax on, and you can see it's not quite in the right spot, and it idled down really low. I've been playing with the throttle, the idle speed screw on the throttle body to try and dial it in a little better, but overall it's running good. I mean, so next things I gotta tackle, I'm gonna work on the interior wiring and stuff like that for now. But the next things I'm gonna tackle are the AEM cam gears and the lightweight crank pulley. So that'll be a whole nother video, because I'm also going to change the valve cover gasket because it's got a leak. And I think that'll be it. Once I get all that done, and I got some other stuff I ain't said I've been slowly acquiring, because these tires are dry rotted pretty badly. So I'm not going to be running these tires. I'm also not going to be running these wheels. So stay tuned for that. That's going to be a little bit kind of top secret type stuff. But that's it for now. Hope y'all enjoyed the video. If you did, it'd be greatly appreciated if you hit that like and subscribe button. If you want to tune in for more content on the Prelude, there's going to be more of it So it should be about maybe 3 more videos of the Prelude before I take it, start trying to do some shakedown runs before I daily drive it any. But yeah, thank y'all for watching.